It's nice to have a haven in Oklahoma City for queer youth. I remember in high school going to the rec room when I was like 16 and I had never seen a drag show.
A lot of kings, queens, divas, everyone can say that the rec room is home just because, I mean, that is the place that they very first started.
My name is Michael Baxter, and I'm the owner and operator of the Rec Room Oklahoma City. I came to own the Rec Room because the Rec Room had been closed for about 2 years, and I was working a full-time position at Dillard's as a sales manager there. It was a place where a lot of the youth had a great place to come, where it was safe, and, you know, they could come out, dance, watch the shows, and just be themselves without having to be out in a community that didn't fully accept them. And at the point in my life, I was ready for a change. I wanted something different, you know, in my life. And the Rec Room opportunity came about. So I decided to leave my position with that company and put my basic life savings into this to reopen this place to give the youth a new place to come again.
And am I doing just talking about makeup? If she could tell stories, she could put me in jail. My name is Rayne Newport. I am 23 years old. I am a German beer wench by day, and by night I am Alotta Vahjeen, the hottest mess in Oklahoma City. I am from the bustling metropolis of about 3,000 people known as Marlow, Oklahoma. I grew up there my entire life. I was raised with my grandparents, who were very, very Southern Baptist, they were definitely Republicans. But I had the most pleasant experience with them. They were so accepting of everything. They never batted an eyelash at anything, because I was a very odd child. And not only was I like gay, but I was gay and weird. And they never cared. They never cared about anything. They never batted an eyelash. They never had a second thought about anything that I said or did. I have always felt very different in my sexual identity as well as my gender identity, and that I never really felt like a boy or a girl. That's both at the same time, and I feel like a lot of Vahjeen was just kind of me bringing out who I felt like inside, but only sometimes felt like inside. Gender's very confusing, and it's even confusing for me, and I've been doing this shit for 5 years. Give it up for Alotta Vahjeen. Like I said, I just moved, and so a lot of the stuff is still packed up. But drag room. This is the paper dress that I made for my RuPaul's Drag Race audition tape this year. Alotta Vahjeen is like a 1920s burlesque dancer with like a 1980s attitude. If I had to describe her in 3 words, it would probably be statuesque, sexy, and disinterested. I take inspiration a lot from makeup artists, I would say, more so than anything. I absolutely adore Pat McGrath, and of course like Miss Fame and Matthew Anderson is a huge inspiration for me. I also take a lot of inspiration from, like I said, I was raised with my grandparents, so growing up I thought that like The Wizard of Oz and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang were modern movies. So I've always taken a lot of inspiration from like 1920s, 30s, 40s women, like Joan Crawford, Marlene Dietrich, Jane Mansfield. But I've always been attracted to like the attitude and the idea of like 1980s like rockers like Joan Jett. Like, I got this at a vintage shop, this vintage house coat, which is maybe my favorite item of drag, honestly. Vintage, 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 vintage. This is actually my Nana's. This is my, like, never mind. What the fuck is this? Oh, I have this number. I got this wedding dress at a vintage store and then cut it up and doused myself in blood and did Cellophane by Sia and pretty much writhed on the ground and cried for like 3 minutes of the song, because sometimes you just gotta let your emotions out somehow, some way, you know? This was at my grandma's house, and when she died, my birth mom had like texted me and was like, I found a fucking bloody wedding dress in Nana's closet. Please tell me that it's yours. And I was like, you found it.
And ladies and gentlemen, new seniors. With a total score of 219, contestant number 3.
A drag queen to me is someone that you look at if you're at like, I mean, a gay bar and everything. I mean, hell, it could be just wherever really. And you like, oh my gosh, that person is so fabulous. Like, I really want to be that person.
Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond.
Jalika, she's very much a millennial. I don't know. She goes with the flow, really. Don't really like a lot of drama or anything like that. But for the most part, I want to say she's a very down-to-earth type of chick. I don't know. I'm from Pauls Valley. I was born and raised there. My entire family is from the area and everything, so we're kind of close. I thought I was going to be there forever, but after high school, I was like, I cannot do this. Back in 2011, I went to Pride. I saw a drag queen on this red high heel. She was Miss Oklahoma America, and it was London D. Raine. She blew a kiss at me, and she was like, I love you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this lady is fabulous. So, goes through around Christmas time, I go to the Wreckroom for the first time, and I see a drag show. Jack Monroe was hosting, and Lindsay Page was performing, and a whole slew of people. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I need to get in this. So turn around, New Year's Day, I had my first drag show. I really think London is the one that got me involved, really, just because she was like, I love you. And I'm like, who is this lady? And I want to be her. My actual first performance was Whip My Hair by Willow when that song was out and popular and everything. I didn't own a pair of high heels, no body, pantyhose or anything. Like, I just had a wig and some makeup and I was like, I'm doing this shit. It was a great night, but I looked terrible. No regrets at all. 2011 was the first year I did Wreckroom and everything, and I didn't exactly know what I was getting into, and I got second alternate. So I was like, okay, you know, I guess I am good at this. That year, I came back around for 2012, and I won Miss Wreckroom that same year. It was April 22nd, 2012 for that crowning, and I remember it because it was right after, you know, my mom passed away, and I was like, I'm doing this for her. Like, this is going to be her crown. So, got it. I was just like, where am I going next? I have to do so many things in Oklahoma. Let's do it. I want to be one of those stars in the sky. So, this year, I competed for Miss at Large, Miss Oklahoma USA at Large, and I won the title. It's great. I love the competition. I love the sparkles, the seeing the national title holders that I look up to and everything. I love it all. You ready to see my closet? Oh my god, it's such a wreck. Psych. I literally have, I think, everything that you could possibly imagine. I mean, everything. I love gowns. I love sparkly gowns. This is probably my favorite piece. Just all the sparkles. However, in the sheet because my zipper busted. But that's what I won Miss Oklahoma in. It is ridiculous. It's my fave. Yeah. I like to call this a bag of hair. Bam! It's my fave. Can't forget about her. This is my body. I like to call it my bag of potatoes. And this is how I can tell this is the back. But I absolutely love jewelry. This is my favorite thing ever. Oh, it has hair on it. But yes, baby, just come out and be like, eat it. So this is my foundation. This is one of my foundations that I use. Clearly, that is nothing like my skin tone. This is my favorite effing gown. I did all of the embellishment on this, and it took me forever. But what I want to do is finish it, go in on the pink side, and do a nice pink stonework on there. But that's a whole lot of pink, and I am only one person. When I first went to the Rec Room, I remember the Pride and everything, the Pride party, whatever it was always just like a fun event, you know. It's like, it's home for everyone, and it's really cool. Like, once you like really look on the history and everything, you're like, wow, damn, that does go back for years. So, I mean, I kind of sometimes wish I could stay there. It would make my life a lot easier, just because, I mean, I would be able to help out a lot more. Just throw a cot in the back or something, you know? I don't know. I could probably do that too. Camping out at the Rec Room. You want to come?
The Rec Room has always had shows here from day one. It has been around actually a lot longer than most of all the other clubs here on the Strip. It opened its doors many, many years ago, same time that Angles opened theirs. The Rec Room in the past had a really shady past. Drugs had gotten very bad. The Rec Room was known as the place to come and buy your drugs, and to me, that's not a good place for youth to be. If the people want to do their drugs and whatever, that's fine. They can do whatever they want, but I feel that bringing it into a place like this is just not good. And that is one thing that I've really made sure of when I reopened the Rec Room, is that I keep this as a safe place. It's not a place where we're gonna have drug dealers in here. We're not gonna be having all that stuff going on. You know, that's why we're drug-free, we're alcohol-free, we're smoke-free. We don't need 15, 16-year-old kids in here smoking cigarettes. What are we telling our youth if we're allowing that to happen? By me doing that, and the changes that I've made with that, I think it's been a really positive outlook. We've got a lot of youth groups now that message me and that want to come here and do different events. Like 2 weeks after we opened, we held queer prom here. And they were so excited that we had this kind of environment. So my goal really is to make sure that we change the stigma of what the Rec Room was in the past and make it to where it is something for the future. The drag here at the Rec Room has always been different than everything else because it is a place for the youth to, you know, start their craft. We embrace everybody. We don't care, you know, if you're a drag king, a drag queen, if you're a girl that wants to dress in drag. You know, we don't care what that is. If you're a performer and you want to come here and perform, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you build your craft and just be better at what you do. And we embrace it.
Am I allowed to play music?
Interview or something like that, they need to have a release form with them. And the location form too, we need to have that. Micheal can fill it out.
The song I'm doing is called Feed Me Diamonds, and so I'm gonna rhinestone like red blood down my neck. I was 18 when I started doing drag, so the Rec Room or a couple clubs in Tulsa were really the only options for me. Pretty much every prominent person to come out of Oklahoma or to be in Oklahoma has started at the Rec Room. It's such a stepping stone. I remember in high school going to the Rec Room when I was like 16 and I had never seen a drag show and didn't really was still struggling a lot with myself and my gender identity and my sexual identity. And it's such a great place for queer youth. But I got my start there. I was very fortunate in that when I first started doing drag, like the third time I'd ever stepped onto a stage, I entered a competition called Wreckroom, which was like a 3-month-long competition, and I went through it and actually ended up winning it and got a cast spot there. So legitimately from like the third time I'd ever stepped onto a stage, I was in drag legitimately every single weekend of my life. And that was almost 4 years ago now. And so drag really went from like 0 to nothing for me. I went from not doing it whatsoever to doing it literally every single weekend and it being such a huge portion of my life. And I was on cast at the Wreckroom until the day that it closed. And it closed New Year's of 2015 and it just recently reopened. And I was on the grand reopening show, so I can say that I closed the bitch down and opened it back up. I generally have to like put foundation on my whole chest too because like my chest hair grows so thick. It sucks. It's hard being a woman. 2 of the big Modelo Cheladas.
Modelo Cheladas. Okay. Got it.
Bless.
BRB.
I feel like I always have a good time in drag. Like that's honestly why I would continue to do it because it's not that I, can pay my bills doing drag. Drag is expensive. It's totally a labor of love, I would definitely say. I did in the beginning get such a validation. I really, really enjoyed the attention that I got from it, especially being a gay male, and I was really overweight and really, I don't want to say unattractive, but I was unattractive. And I got to feel like I was the most attractive thing and the most sexy thing, and I got a lot of attention that I would never ever get as Lane. And learning from that and feeding off of that really made Lane a happier person as well and made Alotta really grow as a performer and as a drag queen. And I feel like the biggest hurdle that I've come being in Oklahoma and doing drag is having to deal with how everyone in Oklahoma thinks that drag should be. And I really went with it for a while, especially after the Wreckroom closed, because the Wreckroom had always been my home. I got to do whatever. So I had never experienced that kind of oppression from other queer people saying that I had to do things a certain way. But after the Wreckroom closed, I had a really hard time finding gigs. I went through a whole drag identity crisis. It was insane. And I ended up competing for Miss Oklahoma and doing pageants because I thought that's what I had to do to fit in. And it made me really, really resent drag. And I almost quit doing drag as I fell out of love with it because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do and what was important to me. I've been told multiple times by multiple different people that I'm not a drag queen because I don't do things the way that they do, which is absolutely insulting and hilarious that you're gonna literally judge another man in a dress because they don't wear dresses the same way that you do. Myself in drag, I do makeup differently than a lot of the people who live in Oklahoma. I don't wear hip pads most of the time, which is something that drag queens will wear on their hips to give themselves a more hourglass figure. I do a lot of burlesque. I get out there and I'll be wearing 2 earrings glued to my nipples, a piece of duct tape, and a smile. And I've gotten gigs for that. And I see absolutely no issue with that. It's my art, and I think that it's valid. But a lot of people don't see me as a drag queen. They see me as a makeup artist, or they see me as a cross-dresser, or they see me as just a burlesque performer, and I don't agree with that. And I feel like the expectation is so insane that I've had a show host tell me that they didn't want to pay me because I wasn't wearing earrings, or that they didn't like my hair, or that my costume didn't have enough rhinestones on it. And I just think that expectation is so ridiculous, because I feel like as drag queens, we're doing something really revolutionary, and no matter what we're doing, who cares what we're wearing? We're all coming together to do the same thing, and we're all working towards a greater good here. But I think that the best thing that has happened through drag is bringing the power of drag and the power of queer art into a place such as Oklahoma where everyone is kind of closed-minded. And I've got to perform at art venues and art galleries and events in the daytime that were open to families and children, and just bring the normalcy of drag and gay culture and queer culture to that plane. And I don't understand why it's a bad thing that drag has become so mainstream and it's become acceptable. And I shot my Drag Race audition walking down the sidewalks in downtown Oklahoma City and didn't get mugged or shot or really a second glance at. I don't understand why that's such a bad thing. I think that RuPaul said it best, and she said that you're all born naked and the rest is drag. And I think that drag is anything that you like put on to be like a heightened version of yourself. And I think the term drag queen just kind of goes for the people who do that for a living. To have the term drag attached to it, you have to be doing something to be like a heightened version of yourself. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a drag in heels. If you're a doctor, when you put on that white coat and you walk into the operating room, you're not the same person that you were when you were sitting in your office. You became like a heightened version of yourself. And to me, that's drag.
Check it out.
Bless you.
You want me to put this in the fridge?
Yes, please. God bless you.
Just open that with one hand.
I'm in my true form.
We got a cupcake. In high school, I was involved in choir a lot. I was a drum major my senior year. I was in band on the drum line, like doing all that stuff. It was great. But I was definitely that gay kid in, country. So it's like, what are you doing here? What's going on? I remember one time in particular for a pep rally, because we would march through the hallways and like play our loud drums or whatever. And these rednecks are sitting on a picnic table and they're like, what's this fag doing? And I was like, oh my God, did he just call me a fag? So like I walked up to him and I was like, you don't know me, sir. So I'm gonna need for you to go ahead, bag on back, because you don't want to meet me. I'm crazy. So I had to really defend myself a lot of the times. Coming out, it was hard for me. I was, I guess, scared because my dad was the sheriff down in Pauls Valley. So it's like really, everyone knows everyone. So I'm like, I can't really do that. I remember the day to the T. It was January 7th, 2008. My parents sat me down and my dad was like, do you like boys? And I was like, you can't say boys, Dad, because that sounds like I'm a chomo. And he was like, well, what do you call it? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, are you gay? And I was like, yeah, I'm gay. That is exactly it. He immediately was like, you need to get the hell out of my house, and like tried to put me out. And my mom was like, no, it's not happening. I'm sorry. You're going to stay right here and you're going to calm the fuck down. So Mom had my back the whole way through everything. Fast forward to me competing my first year for Miss Wreckroom and everything. My dad was one of the people who was like, I can't have you doing this. Like, he told me to bring his truck home. He told me to park it in the yard, put the phone in the seat. I had a drill because I was working on my set and everything for the pageant. He was like, you can leave that drill there because it was at the fag bar and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So it was kind of hard. But after my mom passed away in 2012, kind of started turning around. She's always been my number one fan throughout anything. I could be singing, she would want to be there. If I was performing the national anthem, she would always be there and everything. But my dad, he really wanted me to play football, I'm sure. Wanted me to do something else manly, but it just really wasn't, my cup of tea. We bumped heads a lot, but at the same time, he still loves me to this day. I'm sure I can call him right now and I could ask him for just about anything and he would gladly support me.
Oh, make some noise for Roslyn Dubois.
I started drag in 1996. I did drag on a dare. I was dating a guy at the time that did drag. I was okay with it. I'm like, whatever.
The world is changing and time is spinning fast.
I would say little things here and there around the house or at the club or something. And finally, I guess he just got fed up with my little comments that I made. And he was like, you know what? Until you've done drag for the first time by yourself, I don't want to hear another word about it. I was like, fine, I'll do drag. It just started from there. After that, it was a passion. It was no longer a dare. It was no longer, okay, I'll do it because it's charity. It became a passion. getting out there every week and performing each week at that club, which I did for 2.5 years before I moved back to Oklahoma, it was the most amazing time of my life. During my reign as Miss Texarkana Charity, I raised almost $14,000 for the Texarkana AIDS Project. That was the most money raised by any former Miss Texarkana Charity ever. You know, and I'm not saying it's because I was great. I mean, I'm still learning myself. I'm not perfect by any means, and nor will I ever be. You know, I don't feel that any entertainer is ever perfect. There's always something you can learn, something you can grow from. 21 years later, you know, after my beginning, and I'm still doing what I love to do. It's not because, you know, I'm making money out of it, because I'm not. It's more about the entertainment value and what I can give back. And that's part of the reason why I opened the Rec Room. It's because I could give something back to somebody and give back to the youth, because they really didn't have anything anymore. I saw a gay pride before I opened. I knew I was opening, and I feel really bad that I didn't advertise that I was opening before that. But pride happened, and there was so many youth out here on the streets at the street parties and stuff. They were like, oh my gosh, we wish we had somewhere to go. They were literally having little drag shows out here on the side in front of the building with boombox and drag queens, like some of the kids were just dressed in drag, doing their own little personal shows. And I was like, I felt so bad that they had nowhere to go. Even though I knew I was getting ready to reopen the Rec Room and they would have a place to go. But that moment is really when it set into me, this is crazy. When I grew up, I didn't have a place to go. I grew up very Southern Baptist. You know, my grandmother, my mother, we went to church every Sunday. We did all this stuff. And, you know, growing up, it was very difficult to come out. I have an identical twin brother. My identical twin brother, he's gay as well. And he came out when we were 13 years old at Thanksgiving dinner table. It wasn't a great place to do it, obviously. My mother had divorced my father years before that. And my brother ended up going to live with my father because of it, because my mother didn't want that around her. My mother was very not accepting of it at all. So I had always known that I was, but I never said. So, you know, it's one of those things that I didn't come out to my mother until I was 26 years old. And when I did, it was not good. My mother said very hateful things. But today, though, I can say our relationship is 100% perfect. My mother's learned to accept me for who I am. She doesn't always agree with it, but she's made it very clear that she loves me regardless. So, coming out and then to what today's youth comes out to now, it's grown. Being gay today is nothing like it was whenever I was going through, you know, coming out and doing all of that stuff. So, you know, these youth, now they can be who they are. They can go to school and be who they are. It doesn't matter. And then seeing these kids out here, like I was saying, you know, having no place to go. I thought really hard, you know, do I want to put all my money into this? Is it going to work? You know, it's been closed for 2 years. Are they going to come back? The first couple of months were rough. We made no money at all here. And, you know, it is what it is. But now we're starting to strive. We're starting to get our footing. We're starting to get these kids knowing that we're here. We've got youth groups now that are starting to say, hey, yeah, go down there. It's cool. When the Rec Room was here before, we didn't have all of those LGBTQIA youth groups out there for these kids to go to. They didn't have all of that. So the Rec Room was the only place they had to go. But now they're still going to these youth groups, but now they're coming here too. And My goal, honestly, is really just to keep this place open. You know, if something happens somewhere down the line where I can't be, I'm going to make sure that there's somebody here that can keep it going, because there's just no way that it can ever close again.
Make the noise for very fabulous Miss Alotta, Vahjeen.
Lie to me. Come on, dismantle me. Do it slowly. My hands.
A drag queen to me, when you go out and watch a drag club, you go out to have a good time. Drag queens are like an aspirin to the pain of life. You just go to forget about your life and to have a good time. And if that's happening, then who cares like what is going on? Who cares what dresses you're wearing, or what, if you've ever won a crown, or how you do your makeup?
So go ahead and feed me diamonds. Feed me diamonds. Feed me diamonds. Diamonds. Feed me diamonds.
I think that everyone's art is valid. Did it fit? Did you try it? Did it fit?
Oh, I haven't tried it yet. I'll try it on before the last number. Did you try it? Alotta and I have, always called each other sis. Like, she's always been there if I needed something, earrings, whatever it may be in the back. I can always go to her for that.
I'm so used to being out here in Justin and being beautiful and pretty, now I have to do the boiler room. So just making sure. Did you go? Or not? No, you're trying to the car. I need you to get my outfit. I don't do all that. Let me? What do you guys think in our step bar?
shakes before I go on stage.
Hey, go to the back of the That would be Jalika.
We're 1,000 miles from comfort. We have traveled land and sea. But as long as you are with me, there's no place I'd rather be. I would away forever, exalted in the sea. As long as I am with you, my heart continues to beat. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the batteries. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Knowing the little hope you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. 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 We set out on a mission to find our inner peace, make it everlasting, so nothing's incomplete. It's easy being with you, sacred simplicity. As long as we're together, there's no place I'd rather be. With every step we take, Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same, gave you another name, switch up the batteries. If you gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Knowing the little hope you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be.
You had the worst day ever, or you got fired or whatever, you know, broke up with a boyfriend, come to the rec room and you can see these entertainers probably do the song that you were listening to over and over again before you even like decided that you were going to go to the rec room.
Gave me a chance, I would take it. It's a shot in the dark, but I'll make it. Knowing the little hope you can't shame me. When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be. 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 When I am with you, there's no place I'd rather be.
I made a post last night on Facebook about the Miss Oklahoma Charity Pageant, talking about how I won Miss Texarkana Charity. I made a comment on there that winning that crown, which was literally the size of a small brooch, sticking it in my hair, you didn't even see it. But that crown, you didn't get to keep it. You handed it to the next person every single year. It was a passed down crown. It was missing stones out of it. You know, it was nothing fancy. It was dull. But it had been passed down for 15, 20 years. You know, they've been having that pageant. I made the comment in my post about how winning that wasn't about winning the crown. It was about reminding me who I was and keeping me humble and grounded to remember what I can do for others. And I still feel that, you know, I really do. You know, I wouldn't have said it if I didn't. And I think a lot of the drag queens here in Oklahoma feel kind of the same way. You know, a lot of them started right here at the rec room. They continue to work here at the rec room. They ask all the time, hey, can I get a booking at the Rec Room now that you're reopened? You know, and we will book anybody. We don't care. You know, some of the places on the Strip, you have to be a certain person, a certain caliber, you have to be whatever. But you know what? We don't care. You know, everybody's different. Everybody has a different art form. And that's what we respect here, and that's why we keep having people come in. And that's why we do what we do.